Hello, welcome back to Undressing the Issue. I'm Julia Alperovich, your host. And today I wanted to talk about something that I keep seeing on social media, in headlines, and also in my office in sessions. And that issue is apologizing. Apologies. So, I'm sure many of you were tuned in to the recent documentary about, Free Britney and her conservatorship with her father and everything that happened to her. And afterwards, there was this very brief blip on the radar coming from Justin Timberlake, some PR person somewhere decided that this was really bad publicity, made him look terrible. And I have to say, having watched the documentary, it did mention their relationship and what he did towards the end of it. And his apology was interesting because he apologized to both Britney Spears and Janet Jackson in one fell swoop. So, to me, it feels like we're just trying to smooth things over and keep it moving, but it doesn't really feel like truly taking accountability for having wronged somebody. It's just somebody's PR person saying, hey, you looked like a dick. You should probably issue some statement and then we can just keep it moving. No big deal. I do think that apology could have been done better, maybe to each woman individually, since he wronged more than one. Shouldn't there be more than one apology or apology statement? The other apology, that whole thing to me seemed like a really half-assed way to save face on his part. And it certainly didn't make up for what he did to them. He behaved in a chauvinistic, arrogant way. And that's something that, I don't know about you, but for me as a woman, it cuts deep. And, issuing a quick statement where I would be lumped in with another person, I wouldn't really feel as though accountability was fully taken and that the person really, really, truly saw the error in their ways. The other apology that made me feel that way more recently was Chrissy Teigen. So this apology was interesting because it was this long, heartfelt letter that she posted just about everywhere, apologizing for saying really cruel things to a young woman who actually at the time wasn't even of legal age, was still an adolescent. And a lot of it was about how Chrissy was doing work on herself and was going to therapy and was learning what was going on for her, that she felt at liberty to say such terrible things. And I just walked away. I read this and I thought, okay, well, good. I'm glad you see that you just did something completely terrible. But I don't really care about how difficult this process has been for you. And there was a lot of this for her of, I've just been tormented and I still can't believe I said that and I don't know what I was thinking or why I would ever think it was okay. And I feel like more could have been said about the impact these words have had, not just on the person they were directed to, but on other people reading this material. Other people who may look up to you, and here you are normalizing bullying and cutting others down, especially other women, and not only normalizing, but there's it's this holier than thou kind of attitude. I'm above you. I can talk down to you, as if being a celebrity or having a lot of money or being married to a famous musician somehow gives you free license to talk to others like that. And with the younger generation, this whole idea of aspiring to being famous, to portray being famous as being allowed to be an asshole is just such a disservice. And I feel like more could have been said towards that. But more importantly than, the celebrity world and the gossip sphere, it got me thinking, because in working with couples, I do see a lot of people who also come in talking about apologizing or the need to apologize or attempting to apologize. Somebody will come in and express their understanding that they've done something bad, they've hurt somebody they cared about, and they feel remorseful about it. They feel a sense of guilt or shame, and they want to express that remorse to the person they wronged. In my opinion, that is what an apology is. It doesn't correct anything. It's not an amends. It's simply a recognition that you did something that was bad. Plain and simple. As far as making it up to that person, of righting that wrong, to me, after an apology, after a recognition, that's when the work begins. The work of restitution, of really demonstrating and showing that person through your behaviors and decisions, your actions, that you truly do regret it and don't ever want to do it again, that you have learned from your mistake, that you are going to make every effort possible to not make that mistake again, to not make somebody feel that way again, that this is something you truly are trying to grow from. But simply recognizing doesn't do that. And the problem also is that the way that people portray their recognition that they've wronged somebody is often faulty in itself. How people apologize. This is interesting to me. So I feel like I do a lot of coaching with people on how to apologize, the do's and don'ts. So the first thing I tell folks is that if you're going to apologize, if you do it again, whatever it is that you're apologizing for, if you do it again and you apologize again, guess what? You've set a precedent. Now the pattern is that your apology is meaningless. This recognition is not truly a recognition. You're not really fully integrating the breadth of your behaviors. You're just trying to keep this person from being mad at you for an extended period of time. But if you really regretted it, you wouldn't have done it again. So number one is multiple apologies for the same behavior and repeating it after apologizing. Well, that's manipulative. It's manipulative. It's psychologically abusive. You are trying to win over that person's trust in you again. You're trying to get into their good graces, when in reality, you are likely to hurt them again, to injure them again, to mistreat them again. And I think to some degree, you need to be honest, not with the person you hurt, but with yourself, that you may not be capable of being good to that person. And for you to keep apologizing and giving them that impression, you're stringing them along, and that's not fair to them. That's number one. Don't repeat the behavior after you've apologized. It's a hell of a lot harder to win the person back when you've already said you were sorry and then you did it again. The other error that I point out to folks when they apologize is when they use the words, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. It's like saying, yeah, you're having a hard time with this. Sucks for you. There's no accountability in that. There's absolutely nothing. It's just saying, well, you're salty and, you know, it sounds rough and yeah, tough break. It's just not a recognition of anything that I've done by saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's that what I'm saying is you should feel differently. But at no point am I saying, yeah, I really fucked up on that. That's on me, totally on me. I will own this one. There is none of that implied. It's just, you're salty, that's your problem, not mine. So don't ever use the words, I'm sorry you feel that way, because basically that is a very clear indication that you give zero fucks. Okay? That's worse than not apologizing. If that's what you plan on saying, don't say it at all. The other thing I see, and this is probably the most common thing I see, is the I'm sorry, but. That but just gets in the way. The but nullifies your apology. I'm sorry, but I was just really tired that day. Oh, okay. So I regret doing it, but I have an excuse, is what you just said. Or my favorite is the I'm sorry, but you also hurt me. Oh, and now you're saying, yes, I did something bad, but you did something bad too, so it's a wash, or we're even, or, mine is excused. Well, two wrongs don't make a right. And there are moments where you may be correct that the other person did also wrong you, but there's a correct and healthy way to handle that. And the way to do that is by taking turns. So I'm going to take responsibility for my part, and I'm going to leave it at that. And once that lands and sinks in, and the other person feels settled with it at a later time, not in the same conversation, not in the same sentence, not in the same breath, I will bring up the issue that I'm still upset about, that I need to see you take accountability for. This is a big one, and couples do this all the time, where they each have a bone to pick, and if they take a one-down position and apologize for what they've done, then whatever they're upset about that the other person's done won't ever get heard. And so they try to spit it out or say it as quickly as possible, and it comes out often on the tail end of an apology, making that apology useless, meaningless, null and void. I think part of this happens in relationships where one person always feels like they're taking the one down. Even if that's not the case, if they feel that way, if that's the experience that they have, that's what can make them anxious about once again apologizing and taking a one down. It may be that they are afraid that if they were to bring up whatever they're upset about, that it won't be heard, it won't be acknowledged, it won't be rectified, won't be corrected. So there's this sort of tug of war that happens. Each person is trying to put themselves in the victim position, because the victim position comes with a certain amount of entitlement. You owe me an apology. You wronged me. I was the victim in this situation. So never, the moral of the story, never say, I'm sorry, followed up with a but. Don't ever follow it up with a but. Let it sit, let it linger in the air, And at a later time, you can bring up your issue and reverse the roles. But when you do it all in one fell swoop, it loses its meaning. Even before people get to the point of apologizing, this happens quite frequently when there's some type of disagreement. One person brings up their side, and rather than first hearing it, validating it, acknowledging what you just heard and what the person's trying to communicate to you, the person you're speaking with fires back at you with something else that they're upset with. And so you start doing this back and forth of, no, it's my turn to be heard. No, it's my turn. Well, I did hear you, but now you have to hear me. Before that first thing was actually fully resolved and heard. This is another way to dodge accountability. And it's passive aggressive. It's also, hate to say it, kind of immature. You can do better. I promise you can do better. It will not kill you to hear what your person has to say, actually validate what they're saying, take ownership. Yes, I hear you. I did whatever, and it really upset you. And you're letting me know, and I appreciate you letting me know. And I do regret making you feel that way. And I want to make it up to you. And if there's something specific I could do, please let me know. But I hear you, and I'm sorry I did that. Period. The end of that portion. At a later time or date, you can bring up your end. But when you start turning the tables and firing back, you are, in a slighter sense, gaslighting that person. Don't ever do that. Gaslighting sucks. We've talked about that. Now, on the flip side, the person who is being apologized to, what can happen for some people is they feel obligated or pressured to accept the apology, even when it doesn't feel right to them. It doesn't feel true. Yes, you apologized. Yes, you recognize that you hurt my feelings in some way or you did something to upset me, but I'm still upset and I'm not ready to say, I accept your apology and I forgive you. I do appreciate that you are acknowledging it and you're owning it and that you're offering me the apology, but I need some time before I can turn around and accept your apology and move towards resolving this issue. A lot of people tell me that they don't feel like that's something they can do. It's sort of this unspoken expectation that when somebody apologizes to you, you're supposed to right then and there say, thank you, I accept your apology, and that it's all done. It's buried. You don't have to. I'm here to tell you, breaking news, you don't have to accept the apology in that moment. You can let the person know that you're not ready to in that moment, that you need a little bit more time. You're still kind of hurt. You're still kind of upset by what they did, what they said, and that's okay. However, don't drag it out forever. Don't use this as leverage to try to get that person to do things for you or to, suck up to you or whatever else. Take time, but take a reasonable amount of time. And if there is something that you feel like they missed in their apology or that you're still needing to hear from them or see from them, let them know. We can't expect people to be mind readers. They don't know what's still upsetting you if you don't tell them. But if it is just purely that you're still hurt, you're not feeling like you're emotionally in a place where you're ready to say those words, that's okay. That's okay. You can say that. If you feel like the apology isn't enough, you can say that. Again, it's all about communication. Just be honest. But if you don't plan on ever accepting an apology, that it's just irreparable, you can't come back from that, then you also need to say that. Because to keep the person hanging on when you have no intentions of forgiving them ever, see, now you're wronging them. And again, two wrongs don't make a right. As far as wording, I do have to say something about this. The words "I'm sorry," in my opinion, are played out, okay? We say "I'm sorry" all the time. Have you ever heard somebody's voicemail greeting? "I'm sorry I can't come to the phone right now." No, bitch, you're not sorry. Why you say you're sorry? You're not sorry. You're busy living your life, doing your thing. That's fine. But we just say it because that's what just rolls off. It's this casual expression that just kind of falls out of our mouths, and it doesn't have any meaning. And if that's the case, and these are words that we say casually all the time, then hey, get creative. Apologize using some other words besides just "I'm sorry." I regret what I did. I regret how I made you feel. I know that my actions affected you in blah, 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 in this way. And I did not want to make you feel that way. And for that, I want to take responsibility, because even though I didn't want to make you feel that way, I did. And that's on me. That's another form of apologizing. Again, remember, it's a recognition of a wrong that you committed. It's a recognition, it's an acknowledgement, and you're saying, I wish I didn't do that. I regret that I did that. I feel remorse over doing that. I hurt you and I did not intend to do so, but I still hurt you and I have to take responsibility for hurting you. There's so many different ways you could go about it. I mean, there's so many different words you can use, synonyms, get out your thesaurus. But "I'm sorry" is played out. When somebody bumps into my shopping cart at the grocery store, "Oh, I'm sorry." Okay. Are you, or is that just what's socially appropriate to say? You could have said, "Oh, excuse me." "Oh, I got a little too close, pardon me." There's so many different ways you could say this, but everybody throws out the "I'm sorry." It's been diluted. So use something else. And let me tell you, when you do use something else, because it's not heard all the time, it's going to have a lot more meaning. So get creative. Use your words. Be expressive. Be verbose. I promise it'll be appreciated. So that's my 2 cents on apologizing. I just keep seeing people doing it wrong, making it about themselves, doing it in a half-assed way, or not even knowing where to begin, but wanting to do it. Apologizing is not easy. I do want to recognize that. It takes a good amount of humility, vulnerability, to actually admit that you were wrong. Some people have a really hard time with this, and they feel like it's a sign of weakness, or I'm going to lose respect, or if I admit it, then, it's going to be even worse, and I deserve to be punished. Admitting it is, in my opinion, a show of strength, of character, and of integrity. It's better to admit it than to just let it slide and ignore it and pretend there's nothing wrong with what you did. That's terrible. That's abusive. So I recognize that it's hard. I know that you've got to eat a slice of humble pie in order to apologize to somebody properly. But it can also help you walk away feeling better about yourself, and it can help improve your relationship when there is this precedent set of being able to own things, repair things, and move on. That we could both do this. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, that there can be resolution, there can be healing, and that feels good. So despite it being difficult and sometimes confusing, I encourage you to do it. And I hope that some of my tips here today are going to be helpful to you in doing it the next time you have to, although hopefully you don't have to too often, but if you do, when you do. I hope this helps. Thanks again for listening, and have a great day.